I'm Ed Rose, and this is Citizen Kane, back with more tales from the Hilltop. On this broadcast, available only on 101.7 FM WXZY, I chase little-known facts and forgotten memories about the people and the events that have shaped the history of our town. This episode remembers Kane's Sultans of Rock and Roll, Gene Vito, and the fabulous Blue Knights. The golden era of rock and roll began on the Hilltop on May 17, 1957, when local impresario Clifford Brown opened his newly renovated teen club. Brownie, as he was known, also owned the Temple Theater and was an experienced operator in the entertainment business. He spared little expense when he transformed the aging Chase Street Theater into a first-class, members-only nightclub for teenagers. The Kane Republican hailed the nonprofit experiment as the most elaborate of its kind in the region. When it opened with more than 4,000 square feet of floor space and a bright pink interior, the glamorous teen club was a smashing success. On July 25, 1957, rising Capitol recording star and actor Gene Vincent appeared in person on Brown's stage at the Temple Theater for a screening of the jukebox musical The Girl Can't Help It, starring Jane Mansfield and featuring Vincent, who played himself in the film. When the movie was over, the future Rock and Roll Hall of Famer walked down the block and bounded onto the stage at the teen club at Field and Chase Streets, with his huge hit Bebop-A-Lula in his back pocket. Vincent and his Blue Caps played to a throng of approximately 600 screaming fans who each forked out the steep price of $1.75 per ticket and nearly brought down the house that night. Under the headline, "Floor Support Snaps, Under Pressure of Rock and Roll," the Kane Republican reported that the rhythmic movement of the crowd caused a section of the floor to sag about a foot. On the teen club's first anniversary celebration on June 12, 1958, established star Bill Haley and his Comets played to a huge crowd on a heavily reinforced dance floor. With Gene Vincent's earlier appearance, Haley was the second future Rock and Roll Hall of Famer to play at the teen club in its first year. To capitalize on Bill Haley's star power, Brown opened the concert to non-members of all ages, which called the organization's non-profit charter into question. Given the fact that tickets sold for a staggering $3 each, the club appeared to be making money hand over fist with its popular shows. According to the Kane Republican, on July 2, 1958, McKean County President Judge Charles Hubbard denied Brown's request to renew the teen club's not-for-profit charter because of the decision to allow adult membership. Hubbard's ruling allowed Brown to continue operating the club as a private business venture, however. Clifford Brown put Kane on the map as a stop for touring artists, and a steady schedule of bands came to town, delighting and inspiring local fans throughout the region. Seeing top performers up close on a small stage was an epiphany for budding young musicians, and some decided to chase their own rock and roll dreams right away. Groups like the Rhythmaires, led by Charlie Morse, who played at the teen club's grand opening, the Magnatones, the Musicettes, led by Barry Steigers, the Merrymakers, and the Moonlight Serenaders with Tom Wolfe and Gary Olson came away with stars in their eyes. The fabulous Blue Knights were born in 1958 when three talented and savvy members of the future Kane High class of 1961, with the support of their parents, turned their love of music into a successful business. Group leader Ron Zampona played drums, with Joe Adamczyk on accordion and keyboards, and Bud Capello on saxophone. These young musicians recognized they could make steady money playing at drive-ins, bingo nights, grand openings, bowling alleys, bars and restaurants, high school proms, and the popular square dances of the day. Touting themselves as a rock and roll all-style band, the Blue Knights fused the traditional folk music that they heard growing up in their homes with the latest styles of jazz, rhythm and blues, and rock and roll. According to a clip from the Kane Republican in September 1958, the Blue Knights, in their first official appearance as a group, won $3 for fourth prize in a Kane High School talent contest, meaning each of the boys came away with $1 in his pocket. Sue Zampona remembers when her future husband Ron and his fellow band members were a cheap hire. In the beginning, the guys would play for Sloppy Joe's. They were just high school kids, but they were learning fast. With a busy slate of wedding receptions and high school dances, the Blue Knights quickly caught on with the latest hits. According to Sue Zampona, Ron, Joe, and Bud could all read music and could quickly pick up on new hit songs. Ron would ask the schools what tunes they wanted on the playlist, and he and the band would learn to play them before the concert. Their fathers, Dominic Zampona, Adam Adamczyk, and John Capello, took turns providing transportation for the band. By playing together so often, the Blue Knights developed a style of their own, featuring Joe Adamczyk's accordion and Bud Capello's saxophone. Sue Zampona says Joe learned to play his instrument from a popular accordion teacher from Jamestown named Mr. Muzzy. He would come to Kane to give lessons. To round out the group and to broaden their range of music, the Blue Knights added Tom Wolfe to play rhythm and bass guitar. According to Sue Zampona, Tom was a few years older and he was a fatherly influence on the boys. He was the best guitarist any of us had ever heard around Kane, and he loved the song Tequila. The band often closed with that tune. Louis T. Angelo was the well-connected, larger-than-life, one-armed owner of the Boyne building that housed the teen club, proprietor of the bus stop, restaurateur, and the wheeler dealer who handled bookings for the Blue Knights. Louis helped the boys get their union cards. He made sure they were all paid fairly for their work, for a fee, of course. When Ron and I were married, he had saved enough money for a down payment on our first home. The group's weekend concerts in Kane at the Moose Club, K of C, the Teen Club, and the Armory, among other regular venues, drew hundreds of excited teenage fans who simply could not get enough rock and roll. They usually played from 10 p.m. until 1 or 2 a.m., Sue Zampona remembers. The streets would be empty when they headed for home. The chief of police then was Bernard Rose, and he kept a close watch. Once after a show, he pulled them over for being out at such a late hour, and Bud Capello got out of the car, opened an umbrella, and walked straight down the line in the middle of Fraley Street to prove he had not been drinking. "You boys get on home," was all the chief said, shaking his head. As a singer and stage performer, Gene Vito, Kane's king of doo-wop, was a real killer-diller. Gene was born in Kane in 1942 to his single mother, Mary Vito, first-generation Italian-American. He moved to Erie with his mother when he was 5 years old. When I was just a young boy, I was pretty much on my own. I used to meet up with a group of kids who could really sing, some of them black kids on the east side on 18th Street. We'd stand on the corner singing doo-wop songs for spare change, nickels and dimes when we were lucky. I was brave for my age and would sing in front of anyone for money, Gene remembers. Always confident and flashy on the stage, by the time he was 13, Gene gained acclaim as a pitch-perfect child singer. His half-brother Bob Lyon recalls when he made the rounds in Erie singing on local TV stations WICU and WSEE. He was such a natural talent. What a set of pipes. He started singing a lot in school, but he never had any formal training. The cool new doo-wop style of pop music relied on the intricate harmonies that came naturally to Gene and on background vocals for support. With his melodious voice and natural bravado, Gene was the perfect lead, and his talent was in short supply in Erie. At 15 years old, Gene joined up with bass player Lauren Bugsy Cope, tenor George Nopio Jr., and a guitar player Michael D'Amico, all Erieites, to form the Continentals, a name that was later changed to the Contels. According to doowop.blog.org, the group was playing at hayrides and record hops until their manager Donald Hubert talked them into entering a talent show in Cleveland, where they took first place and received a recording contract. They later added another singer, second tenor Anthony Tony Mezzacapo. His strong backup voice was just what the group needed behind Gene, and they won a second talent contest. Young drummer Gary Miller, whose name would become well known throughout the area as a successful car dealer, also joined the Contels to give their music a stronger backbeat. In 1959, Gene Vito and the Contels recorded singles Hey You and Lover's Dream on the Warwick label, and they joined up with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra for a show at Rainbow Gardens in Erie to hawk their record. They also shared the stage with Chuck Berry, the Monotones, Paul Anka, and Frankie Avalon as part of Dick Clark's Caravan of Stars at the Warner Theater.
Hey, you over there!
Who, me?
You're the only girl I'll ever love.
Gene Vito's youthful good looks, stage presence, and range of voice fit the profile of up-and-comers like Anka and Avalon, although that space was getting more crowded by the day. Young heartthrobs like Fabian, Bobby Rydell, Ricky Nelson, Bobby Darin, Gene Vincent, and Bobby V entered the mix, along with already budding legends Avalon and Anka. They got parts in movies and on TV, Gene remembers. I was a better singer, but they all got famous in the movies. Well, that's all for this week, friends. We'll continue this story next week with part 2. Thanks once again for listening. Please send your comments and story ideas to citizenkanepa@gmail.com.